Welcome back, brethren. So now we have completed our Revelation series for 2022. By the grace of the Most High, we'll be doing another Revelation series in 2023. And the reason why we're every year trying to do a Revelation series, or at least every other year, but we try to do it every year as much as we can because prophecies continually being fulfilled, continually. And so next year, this time, there'll be more fulfilled prophecy than there was this year. Okay. We'll see more movements, more events, more things happening than we saw this year. Okay. And so that's why we continually are upgrading our Revelation series to more highlight all of the things that we're seeing going on every year. Right. So we'll do that again by the grace of the Most High next year. If it's his will and we all here, we'll do it. And we also try to include other Bible studies that we have done more than once. And Romans is one of those. And the reason is Romans is one of the, if not the most powerful gospel explanation in the New Testament. Now, I won't say the whole Bible because there's some powerful gospel examples in the Old Testament. In fact, some of the most illustrative and powerful examples of the gospel are in the Old Testament. Zechariah, we talked about many times. Ezekiel, we talked about many times. And so there is, of course, there's Isaiah. There's multiple powerful gospel illustrations in the Old Testament. But the Apostle Paul is being used by the Most High to bring the gospel message to the Gentiles, okay? To bring the gospel message to the Gentiles. And there's a reason for that, because the gospel message, of course, goes first to the Hebrews because they are the chosen people. The Messiah clearly and plainly said, I came not but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I mean, you cannot change that. He said it very plainly. I came not but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He said also to the Gentile, the Samaritan woman, salvations of the Jews. So you guys don't know what you're worshiping. You worship, you know not what, salvations of the Jews. Okay, so it's clear that the chosen people all over the Bible are the Israelite people. The true Israelite people are those people who have a history of being enslaved from West Africa, who have a history from being enslaved and displaced as Indians. Those people that are the American so-called Indians, the Taino Indians, the various different Indian tribes. We studied this throughout when we studied Hosea thoroughly. We also know that the southern kingdom of Judah, which include other tribes, but it was the southern kingdom of Judah mostly, was scattered into the continent that we now call Africa and taken into slavery by the children of Japhet, who we now call Europeans. So that throughout the islands, in the Caribbean, in the countries of South America, in the countries of Central America, in the countries of the United States and Canada, there are Judah being scattered. In the countries of UK and Europe, Judah is scattered there as well. And so we know that. We studied in the Bible. We studied throughout the prophecies. We got multiple witnesses to the effects of what we're talking about here. If you're interested, that's in the Deuteronomy series we did. I think that was 2020. We did a Deuteronomy series. We did a series on Isaiah. We did a series on Ezekiel. We did a series just finishing on Revelation. It's in all of them. Okay, it's in all of them. We go through all of the proof from all of the scriptures. And that's all we use is the King James Bible for all of that. That's all we use. Okay, and so you see that. We can see it's all there. So the Apostle Paul was used to bring this gospel message to Gentiles, and not just Gentiles, but to also Israelites that were scattered and living among Gentiles and living like Gentiles. Greeks, the Bible calls them Grecians, Greek-speaking Hebrews that lived among the Gentiles. And so his message was going not only to the Greek-speaking Hebrews, but also to the children of Japhet as well. Okay, and so that's what we're studying here. Now, let's look at first, the book of Hebrews, the epistle of the Hebrews. Let's look in that in the New Testament. Hebrews. I want to begin at Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5. So the apostle in Hebrews 5, and it never really names the apostle Paul as the author of Hebrews. The style of the writing, though, is Paulian to me. The style of the writing is Paulian. It doesn't say that he's the author of this, but I always have a sort of a Freudian slip where I credit him with authoring Hebrews. He may not be the author, but one thing for sure, the epistle is written specifically for the Hebrews. Okay, so what we're dealing with here in the book of Hebrews is how Messiah is Messiah and how he is the high priest and how he's higher than just any other angel because he's taken the form of angels. And so we're showing, the Hebrews writer is showing through the course of Hebrews why Messiah Hawashah is the high priest, even though he's from Judah, and how, he is not Aaron, but he is with the Levite priest as well as being from the tribe of Judah. Now, he says something here in chapter 5. Now, remember, this epistle is to the Hebrews. Now, we're studying Romans today, but we're going to start off here in Hebrews. And you'll see why in a moment, okay? And so the apostle Paul, or Shaul, is the apostle appointed to give the gospel message to Gentiles and to Grecians, okay? So let's look first in Hebrews chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5, we're going to begin at Hebrews chapter 5, beginning at verse 1. Hebrews chapter 5, beginning at verse 1. For every high priest taken from among men is ordained for men in things pertaining to Yahweh, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins, who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for that he himself also is compassed with infirmity. And by reason hereof, he ought, as for the people, so also for himself, offer for sins. And no man taketh this honor unto himself, but he that is called of Yahweh, as was Aaron. So also Messiah glorified not himself to be made an high priest, but he that said unto him, Thou art my son, today have I begotten thee. As he said also in another place, Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Malach Asadak, who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplication with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, and was heard in that he feared, though he were a son, yet learned he obedience by the things which he suffered. And being made perfect, he became the author of eternal salvation unto all them that obey him, called of Yahweh a high priest after the order of Malach Asadak, of whom we have many things to say, and hard to be uttered, seeing ye are dull of hearing. For the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of Yahweh, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For everyone that uses milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. But strong meat belongeth to them who are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. So he's rebuking the readers, because he's telling the Hebrews, y'all should know this. I shouldn't have to be going through this with you. You should know this. Okay, that's what he's saying. And why? Because he quoted the scriptures. He quoted Psalm 2 and he quoted Psalm 110. Malach Sadak Malach means king. Sadak is righteousness. So he's saying this, after the order of the king of righteousness, is Messiah a high priest. And he's an eternal high priest. He said he quoted Psalm 110. In fact, let's look at Psalm 110 so we can see the quotation that is two witnesses here. So Psalm 110. Psalm 110, I'm going to read from verse 1 down to verse 4. Psalm 110 from 1 to 4. Note, this is what was just being quoted in Hebrews 5. So here, Psalm 110 from verse 1 to 4. Yahweh said unto my master, sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Yahweh shall send the rod of thy strength out of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power. In the beauty of holiness, from the womb of the morning, thou hast the dew of thy youth. Yahweh hath sworn and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever, after the order of Malach Sadak. So he's quoting that. So he's saying Messiah is who was being spoken about in Psalms 110. And he's saying not only is he being spoken about, he's a high priest after the order of someone called the King of Righteousness. Now you must think about what that means to be after the order of. The Levite priests are after the order of Aaron. What does that mean? They are lineal descendants of Aaron. That they cannot be a high priest unless they are literal, physical descendants of Aaron. To be after the order of Aaron. That's what it means. Okay? It's not just a disciple. This is somebody that is the family bloodline of Aaron. So, Messiah is the high priest from the family bloodline of the King of Righteousness. Okay? So, Messiah is the bloodline, a descendant from the King of Righteousness, after the order of Malach Sadak, the King of Righteousness. Now, the writer of the Hebrews said that Messiah, it said, he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. Would lead some to understand, well, wait a minute, was he disobedient? No, that's not what it's saying. That's not what it's saying. What is it saying when it says Messiah learned obedience by the things which he suffered? So one thing we need to understand when you're studying the Bible, it is in multiple places that we have seen Messiah was without sin. That's right. Yah is the King of Righteousness. That's correct. That's correct, Stephen Kerry. So when it does, so it tells you that Messiah is without sin. So you don't have to question whether this